نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد بسم الله. Today inshallah we will continue from verse number 36 of Surah Al-Zukhruf. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ومن يعش عن ذكر الرحمن نقيض له شيطانا فهو له قرين وإنهم ليصدونهم عن السبيل ويحسبون أنهم مهتدون. And whoever is blinded from remembrance of the most merciful, we appoint for him a devil, and he is to him a companion. And indeed, the devils avert them from the way of guidance while they think they are rightly guided. The word ya'shu means yurid, comes from asha ya'shu, and usually used for weakness of vision, and here it means turning away due to weakness of insight. And nuqayyid means nuhayyi wa yuyassir, meaning prepare or facilitate, and qareen is musahib, companion. So whoever knowingly turns a blind eye towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's advice, meaning Quran and Wahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigns a devil who accompanies him at all times, prevents him from virtuous deeds, and diverts him towards evil. As it comes in Surah Fussilat, verse 25, وَقَيَّضْنَا لَهُمْ قُرَنَاءَ فَزَيَّنُوا لَهُمْ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ. And we appointed for them companions who made attractive to them that which was before them and what was behind them of sin. So there is a very important message here for us to understand. When someone rejects the truth with full knowledge that it is indeed true, a form of punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world is that he finds himself surrounded by bad company, such that these friends pull him even further in sin and evil. Another harm of evil friends is that while a person is engaged with such friends and partakes in their activities, he does not feel anything is wrong. Sins become acceptable to him. He develops the attitude of go with the flow. Whatever others around him are doing, just join them, because if so many people are involved in a sin, it must be okay. And the effects of one's company are so profound that a person adopts the habits, the practices, and even the ideology of his friends. As we learn in the narration narrated by Abu Hurairah in Sunan Abi Dawood, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, الرجل على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. A man follows the religion of his friend. So each one should consider whom he makes his friend. And if a bad friend does not completely corrupt one's faith, he or she definitely continues to inflict harm and cast long-lasting effects on him or her. Narrated by Abu Musa in Bukhari, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْجَلِيسِ الصَّالِحِ وَالْجَلِيسِ السَّوْءِ كحامل المسك ونافخ الكير فحامل المسك إما أن يحذيك وإما أن تبتاع منه وإما أن تجد منه ريحا طيبة ونافخ الكير إما أن يحرق ثيابك وإما أن تجد ريحا خبيثة. Verily, the parable, the example of good company and a bad company is only that of a seller of musk and a blacksmith. The seller of musk will give you some perfume. You will buy some, or you will notice a good smell. As for the blacksmith, he will burn your clothes, or you will notice a bad smell. So we should make this dua for protection from evil companions on a daily basis. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min yawmi as-su'i, wa min laylati as-su'i, wa min sa'ati as-su'i, min sahib as-su'i, wa min jari as-su'i fi dar al-muqama. Ameen. حتى إذا جاءنا قال يا ليت بيني وبينك بعد المشرقين فبئس القرين. Until when he comes to us at judgment, he says to his companion, oh, I wish there was between me and you the distance between the east and the west, and how wretched a companion. So in this world, a person enjoyed the company of bad friends. But in the hereafter, he would regret it. He would wish that he gets disassociated and distanced from them. But this separation will not be of any avail, as it comes in the next verse where Allah tells us what happens even though you are distant, but you're both in hellfire. وَلَنْ يَنْفَعَكُمُ الْيَوْمَ إِذْ ظَلَمْتُمْ أَنَّكُمْ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُشْتَرِكُونَ. And never will it benefit you that day when you have wronged, that you are all sharing in the punishment. So scholars provide two meanings of this verse. First is that even though you wish to be distant from your evil companion, this distance will not reduce your punishment, since both you and your evil friend will be facing the same severe punishment of hellfire. And the second meaning is that although in this world people can support each other and share your pain, in the hereafter, no one will be able to share punishment and lessen the burden of his or her friend. أَفَأَنْتَ تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ أَوْ تَهْدِي الْعُمْيَ وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Then will you make the deaf hear, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or guide the blind, or he who is in clear error? Meaning, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's responsibility is to convey the message, but guidance only comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's review verses 36 to 40. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigns a devil to further astray the one who willfully ignores his message. And there is no sharing between a sinner and his evil companions, or reduction in punishment in the hellfire. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can guide a person to guidance and grant salvation. فَإِمَّا نَذْهَبَنَّ بِكَ فَإِنَّا مِنْهُمْ مُنْتَقِمُونَ أَوْ نُرِيَنَّكَ الَّذِي وَعَدْنَاهُمْ فَإِنَّا عَلَيْهِمْ مُقْتَدِرُونَ. And whether or not we take you away in death, indeed we will take retribution upon them. Or whether or not we show you that which we have promised them, indeed we are perfect in ability. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comforting Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in these verses that if he passes away, meaning if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes away before overcoming disbelievers in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will certainly take revenge for all the hardships that he had faced through them. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions another possibility, that it is also in his full power to show Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his life how disbelievers will be defeated and how he will be made victorious. And indeed, this is what happened when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam triumphed over them in the Battle of Badr and disbelievers were vanquished. فَاسْتَمْسِكْ بِالَّذِي أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ وَإِنَّهُ لَذِكْرٌ لَكَ وَلِقَوْمِكَ وَسَوْفَ تُسْأَلُونَ. So adhere to that which is revealed to you. Indeed, you are on a straight path. And indeed, it is a remembrance for you and your people. And you all are going to be questioned. Scholars here explain the word dhikr in two ways. First meaning of dhikr is honor. That Quran is a source of praise and honor for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his ummah. And another meaning of dhikr given is a reminder. That Quran is a reminder for Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and all of us. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَسَوْفَ تُسْأَلُونَ, and you will be questioned. So we will be questioned about Quran. How did we act upon it? What was our response to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands? Let's not take this matter lightly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the constitution of living as Quran. And it is a source of guidance for us as well as great responsibility upon us. This Quran will either intercede for us on the Day of Judgment or it will be a witness against us. Narrated by Abu Malik Ash'ari in Muslim, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, وَالْقُرْآنُ حُجَّةٌ لَكَ أَوْ عَلَيْكَ. Quran is a proof for you or against you. If you seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Quran, fulfill its obligations, believe in its message, obey its commands, and avoid its prohibitions, Quran will be a companion and supporter of you on the Day of Judgment. And if you disrespect Quran, neglect its injunctions, and fail to follow what was obligatory upon you, the same Quran will be a witness against you. Ya Rabbi jal al-Qur'ana lana fi dunya rafiqa wa fi al-qabri mu'nisa wa ala sirati nura min al-nari sitran wa hijaba wa yawm al-qiyamati shafi'a wa la jannati rafiqan wa imama. Amin. واسأل من أرسلنا من قبلك من رسلنا أجعلنا من دون الرحمن آلهة يعبدون. And ask those we sent before you of our messengers, have you made beside the most merciful deities to be worshipped? Here is a command for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to ask previous prophets whether Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala had made any partners in his worship. So a question comes to mind. There were no prophets alive at the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So how could he ask them any question? Scholars give a couple of interpretations here. One explanation is that in the Isra wal Mi'raj, once Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam led prayers for all the prophets, he was advised to ask them this question. And then another explanation is that this verse is advising Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to ask the question not directly from prophets, but from their true followers, the Jews and Christians during his time. So once they also confirm in front of mushrikeen that their prophets, Musa alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, brought the message of Tawheed, perhaps mushrikeen will give up the practice of worshipping idols and false gods. And Allah knows best. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself tells us what was the teaching of each prophet, as we learn in Surah An-Nahl, verse 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. And we certainly sent into every nation a messenger saying, worship Allah and shun all false deities. Let's review the verses 41 to 45. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfilled his promise and made Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam victorious over his enemies within his lifetime. And Quran is a reminder and a source of honor for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his ummah. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا إِلَى فِرْعَوْنَ وَمَلَئِهِ فَقَالَ إِنِّي رَسُولُ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ بِآيَاتِنَا إِذَا هُمْ مِنْهَا يَضْحَكُونَ وَمَا نُرِيهِمْ مِنْ آيَةٍ إِلَّا هِيَ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ أُخْتِهَا وَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْعَذَابِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And certainly did we send Musa with our sign to Fir'aun and his chiefs, and he said, indeed, I am the messenger of the lords of the worlds. But when he brought them our signs, at once they laughed at them. And we showed them not a sign except it was greater than its sister, and we seized them with affliction that perhaps they might return to faith. So the word mala'ihi means ashrafu qawmihi, leaders and chiefs of his nation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the incident of Musa alayhi salam to remind disbelievers of Makkah of the outcome of rejecting their prophet, despite clear signs and miracles that were provided to Musa alayhi salam. And there were many miracles given to Musa alayhi salam, his hands turning bright, the staff turning into a snake, and even many punishments that came upon the people of Musa alayhi salam. As it comes in Surah Araf, verse 133, فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الطُّوفَانَ وَالْجَرَادَ وَالْقُمَّلَ وَالضَّفَادِعَ وَالدَّمَ آيَاتٍ مُفَصَّلَاتٍ فَاسْتَكْبَرُوا وَكَانُوا قَوْمًا مُجْرِمِينَ. So we sent upon them the flood and locusts and lice and frogs and blood as distinct signs, but they were arrogant and were a criminal people. Even after seeing all these signs, Fir'aun and his people continued to reject Musa alayhi salam until they were finally drowned in the sea. وقالوا يا أيها الساحر ادع لنا ربك بما عهد عندك إننا لمهتدون فلما كشفنا عنهم العذاب إذا هم ينكثون. And they said to Musa, O magician, invoke for us your Lord by what he has promised you. Indeed, we will be guided. But when we removed from them the affliction, and at once they broke their word. So the word ينكثون means يغدرون ويصرون على الكفر, meaning they betrayed and they insisted upon disbelief. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further describes the treachery of Fir'aun and his people in these verses. Every time they got punished with a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would go to Musa alayhi salam and ask him to make dua so that their difficulty is removed. And they used to promise that once this torment is removed, they will accept his faith. But once they were back in peace, they broke the promise and continued with their shirk. A question will come to mind at this point. Why did they call Musa alayhi salam a sahir when they were asking for his help? Remember that magicians used to be highly respected at the time of Musa alayhi salam, and they did not consider magic to be reprehensible. So when they needed his help, they called Musa alayhi salam with the title of Sahib, not to insult him, but to honor him as a learned person. Let's pause for a minute and reflect on what is the message in these verses. As much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the attitude of Fir'aun and his people, it is also a reminder for us how we are in the same situation as they were. We have also been given a huge miracle in the form of Quran, just like they were given many miracles through Musa alayhi salam. And our outcome can be the same as theirs when we do not follow the teachings of our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, similar to how they rejected the message of Musa alayhi salam. And this recurring pattern of their disbelief is also very similar to our behavior today, where we become all sober and sincere in our prayers and du'as when in desperate need. But then once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eases our problems, we go right back to the old habits of heedlessness and hedonism. Ya muqallibul qulub, thabbit qalbina ala dinik. Ameen.
ونادى فرعون في قومه قال يا قوم أليس لي ملك مصر وهذه الأنهار تجري من تحتي أفلا تبصرون.
And Fir'aun called out his people. He said, O my people, does not the kingdom of Egypt belong to me, and these rivers flowing beneath me? Then do you not see? This was the arrogant call of Fir'aun, where he addressed his people and mentioned his dominion over Egypt. And we learned about his claim to even godhood in Surah Nazi'at, verses 23 and 24. فَحَشَرَ فَنَادَى فَقَالَ أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. And he gathered his people and called out, saying, I am your Lord, Most High.
أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو مهين ولا يكاد يبين.
Or am I not better than this one who is insignificant and hardly makes himself clear? So Fir'aun began to compare himself with Musa alayhi salam. He stated how Musa alayhi salam was insignificant because he and his followers were weak and poor. Fir'aun also pointed out the stammering which Musa alayhi salam had earlier in his speech, even though it was cured by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he made the dua, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَأَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had accepted it, as we know in Surah Taha, verse 26. قَالَ قَدْ أُوتِيتَ سُؤْلَكَ يَا مُوسَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, you have been granted your request, O Musa. So Musa alayhi salam was cured by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here Fir'aun is trying to degrade Musa alayhi salam and his message by referring to the wealth and by referring to his weakness that he had at some point.
فلولا ألقي عليه أسورة من ذهب أو جاء معه الملائكة مقترنين فاستخف قومه فأطاعوه إنهم كانوا قوما فاسقين.
Then why have there not been placed upon him bracelets of gold, or come with him the angels in conjunction? So he fooled his people, and they obeyed him. Indeed, they were themselves a people defiantly disobedient of Allah. So فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ, meaning istafazzahum, provoked them or bluffed them. Fir'aun confused his people by redirecting them to focus on the wealth of Musa alayhi salam. and when presenting illogical arguments. So he made wealth as a criteria for prophethood, and also set the expectation that angels should have come down to support Musa alayhi salam. But both of these conditions were not relevant to the matter. It was the message of Musa alayhi salam that should have been the center of dialogue and arguments.
فلما آسفونا انتقمنا منهم فأغرقناهم أجمعين.
And when they angered us, we took retribution from them and drowned them all. So asafuna means aghdabuna, when they angered us. So one point of clarification here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure of emotions, unlike humans. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not become happy or sad or angry or pleased in the same way that we experience. Rather, his anger in this verse can be understood as his decision to punish based on the behavior of disbelievers. So they angered him, meaning they provoked the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah knows best.
فجعلناهم سلفا ومثلا للآخرين.
We made them a precedent and an example for the later people. So the word salafan means qudwatan, example. So anyone who acts like them also deserves a punishment like them.
Let's review verses 46 to 56. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may punish people time and again only to give them chance and multiple opportunities to repent and come back to him. We see tyrants and oppressors manipulate and confuse people to achieve their own goals, as Pharaoh did to his people. And Pharaoh and his nation are an example in this world of Allah's punishment for disbelief and betrayal. We'll stop here, inshallah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم